So it's really hot here in Vancouver, so my window is open. If you hear any birds or planes or trains or anything like that, then I apologize, but we do have a very interesting article to dive into today that was posted and talked about by one Andreas Wall on Twitter. Now, Wall is a Swedish Canucks fan who goes out there and does a lot of Swedish-related content on social media, and earlier yesterday, he ended up posting some excerpts from this latest interview with Vancouver Canucks superstar Elias Pettersson. Now, this tweet goes over a lot of the important stuff, but what I wanted to do was, instead of just referring to the tweet, I wanted to go over to the article itself, also go over some extra talking points that weren't covered on this Twitter thread, because it's really illuminating what Elias Pettersson says about his season last year. You can already read it here, but they asked him straight up, hey, what went wrong last season? One of the top replies goes out there and says, "You also said you wanted the pressure when Miller got traded. Talk is cheap. Just prove it on the ice." I agree that Pettersson has to show it on the ice, but it looks to me he wanted to do too much, so he probably wanted the pressure. He just tried to do too much and started overthinking instead of letting the talent go to work. Another thought before we dive into the article itself. Sapster went out there and quote-tweeted Andreas Wall's Twitter thread saying this: "As usual, here is a reminder that interviews, when translated, often lack emotion or context. If Pettersson seems bored or indifferent in his wording here, it's the translation." So, this, of course, is something we have to keep in the back of our minds when reading some commentary from Pettersson. This article is going to be linked in the description. It is the piece itself, and it actually is Swedish, so this is the original language here. After you do the Google Translate, though, this is what you're getting. 2024-2025 in the rear view mirror, Elias Pettersson. It was a season that the Vancouver Canucks Swedish star would rather forget. Now, I'm just trying to look forward, he says. This was written and published by Jan Bengtsson, freelance senior writer for NHL.com, the Swedish version of NHL.com. From rising star Leo Carlsson to veteran Victor Hedman, NHL.com's Swedish version takes a look in the blue and yellow rearview mirror as we review the seasons of 9 of the biggest Swedish players in the league in 24-25. Today, it's Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. Can we actually zoom in to make that look a little bit better? Yes, there you go. That's really nice. The article talks about how 24-25 started well for Elias Pettersson because he signed a new contract worth $92 million over 8 years. Beyond that, nothing turned out as Elias or the Canucks hoped it would. Now, Elias is spending the summer finding himself again, the player that he knows he has the capacity to be. Maybe it was that early in the season that I had the wrong attitude, that yes, now I've signed a big contract and now I have to do more, instead of just being myself. And when the points didn't come, I tended to start thinking and overthinking everything instead of just doing what I usually do. My game last season was obviously not at the level as it was 2 seasons before that. I had a knee injury last summer, and that hindered a lot of my training then. It was really hard to train 100%, Pettersson said. Now, I'm just trying to look forward. So, it is interesting here that Petey is straight up saying that, yeah, he had the wrong attitude the most previous year. Now that he has the big contract, now he has to prove why he was signed to it. Instead of just doing the things that led him to getting the contract in the first place, he thought that he had to do more. Not to mention the fact that he was injured and that he wasn't able to train properly throughout the course of the 2024 summer. These are both issues that I think a lot of Canucks fans will acknowledge. It has been around, let's say, 16 months-ish since Elias Pettersson had stopped playing well, quote-unquote. Heading into the All-Star break last year, that's when Elias Pettersson was probably playing some of the best hockey of his career, of course coming off of a 100-point season in 22-23. There was a lot to like out of Petey's game, but the previous season, as well as bleeding back into March and April of 2024, things were not great here. The article says here that the Vancouver Canucks entered 24-25 with the memory of first place in the Pacific Division the year before, 109 points, a crappy game that reached the second round. I think that's probably a lost in translation type of thing. That is definitely not what the article wants to go out there and say. But Elias Pettersson entered 24-25 with the memory of 89 points in a complete season with 82 games, as well as the memory of the season before with 102 points, and high numbers in the plus-minus statistics. But 90 points after 82 games in the 24-25 regular season were not enough to keep the Canucks in the playoffs. Elias managed only 64 games and 45 points this previous year, his weakest goal and point totals in a full season during his now 7-year NHL career. He was listed as a -10 in that statistic compared to a +20 the year before, and his playing time dropped by almost a minute from 1939 to 1840. Let's dive into some of these extra comments here made by Elias Pettersson. The article talks about Pettersson's timeline in the 2025 season. He played for Team Sweden at the World... What in the world is it called? The Four Nations, that's what it is, yeah. I almost said the World Championships. Nope, that's my bad. After Four Nations, Petey managed to play 15 games before ending the season by leaving the game against the New York Rangers on March 22nd after just under 8 minutes of play. With an injury to his stomach muscle on one side, he did not return for the season. Also, of great interest was the fact that Pettersson was one of the main characters in a spat with teammate JT Miller, a schism that resulted in Miller being traded to the Rangers in December. This is where we dive into some of the extra thoughts from Petey in regards to himself and Rick Tocchet. The 26-year-old from Angie and Timrå has got a new coach and former assistant Adam Foote, but Tocchet left with a call to his Swedish star center. I think he himself would say that he has to prepare better. There are no secrets. If you want to be a top player, you have to prepare, almost in an obsessive way. You know how I am. I'm an honest person, and Pettersson has to train better, and his planning has to change. He cannot train the same way as before, said Tocchet, who was supported in his criticism by club president Jim Rutherford. As Vancouver's player cleared out the lockers after the series was cancelled, after the season ended, I think, Pettersson spoke out about the injury that shortened his year and about his attitude towards Tocchet's criticism. We fought to get back, but it definitely took longer than we expected. But when the season was over, I switched to preparing for next season and taking this time to train more in the gym, among other things, said Pettersson. It sucks that we're still not playing, but I will take advantage of the extra month of training to get started for next season. Finally, this article has some commentary from Adam Foote, the new head coach. Petey and I had some pretty good discussions already this season, and I really think he wants to. I really think he knows what he needs to do, and he is going to be committed. He's got a great group around him that supports him, and is a team around him too. I'm going to make sure I have the talk with him and that we continue our relationship. I support him, said Adam Foote. Now, it's funny because all the commentary about Petey, from Alvin speaking out about all the good things that Pettersson can do, to Foote saying these positive things as well, it's very different from what we had seen out of Rick Tocchet, who was a lot more, oh yeah, we need to change the way this guy thinks, we need to improve that, improve this other thing, change it. It was a lot different compared to the positive affirmations we are hearing about Petey nowadays. Of course, though, none of this matters if Pettersson doesn't show up and doesn't play well next season. So I think that is the biggest thing that we should be hoping for as Canucks fans. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Elias Pettersson's commentary on what went wrong last season for him as a part of the Vancouver Canucks. Thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this Footy 99, and bye.